Hey guys, welcome to the Lunge Lift podcast. Today we have a listener request topic, which is what to do when you're too old for CrossFit. I think this is something we get asked reasonably frequently, where a lot of people who have a large training age, shall we say, have matured through their training career and they're looking for alternative ways to train. So, expect to learn our thoughts on how the CrossFit methodology matches up with an aging population and a few ideas on how to manage your inevitable aging in life, which is inevitable for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah.
But before we get into it, as always, a big thank you to our show sponsors, thetrainingstimulus.com. Please check out the website if you're a PT coach or manual therapist looking to learn more about movement mechanics. wit-fitness.com. Use our discount code LL15 to get 15% off your WIT kit. And Hydro, use our discount code LL20 to get 20% off your blood flow restriction apparel. Right, let's get into it. Rob, getting too old for CrossFit.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel right now. The CrossFit Opens come around and I'm wanting to do the workouts and my body is just like, you don't want to do these workouts. Trust me, your body's going to say no. And I'm only 34. So, it's amazing just the difference between being in your mid-20s to say your mid-30s. So I can only imagine as you start to go to mid-40s, mid-50s and so on, like when does CrossFit become not the right style to train for you? Because essentially it's what they class CrossFit as is completely inclusive because everything can be scaled right back to the nth degree. So it means that everyone can follow the CrossFit methodology. But I think what obviously from today's episode would be quite good is to actually define what the methodology is. And is that what you're actually looking to train or are you actually looking for other things?
Yeah, I think that's it. One of the major tenets of the CrossFit methodology is that everything's infinitely scalable, which in theory it is. You can regress any movement back to an incredibly basic variation, which should be applicable to literally anybody in the world, which I think is a lovely theory. But when it comes to real life and you turn up to a CrossFit gym, is that the reality of what's happening? And I think CrossFit coaches are an incredible population of people for the way they look after their members and will always go well out of their way to give somebody a great workout. But I think there are some practical and logistical constraints, time, number of people in a class, all these things which make it very difficult for the situation when somebody who is very different from the rest of the class for any reason, age being just one, turns up and they might need a lot more attention than is feasible to give them. Say three people who are brand new to CrossFit, never done it before, and they all have different restrictions in why they can't train like the rest of the class. If there's only two coaches and you've got the rest of the class to look after as well, that is a very difficult situation to deal with. So I think the listener who raised this question will remain nameless, but I think their experience was having to jump in on sessions which were very challenging without necessarily having the one major part of this question, what makes you too old for CrossFit? And for me, one of the key things is actually recovery, because most people go to a CrossFit gym looking at 3 times a week or more. And if you're doing 3 times a week or more and you need a day or two to recover from a hard CrossFit session, and an old person might need even more than that, especially if they're new, that first day DOMs can last a lot longer. It then becomes a challenge to just stay in a regular rhythm of turning up to class, which is obviously a big part of being part of the community, seeing your friends every day. If you can't do that like everybody else, then I think you won't feel part of the gang, and that can be quite demotivating when you see everybody else turning up every day and having loads of fun.
Yeah, I think for me that is like that is one of the biggest like pulls into CrossFit, right? Is like the community side of things. Like being part of something. But I feel with for me the big question actually comes to the individual and be like, so why is it you want to do CrossFit? Is it just because you really like CrossFit? Then fine, that's completely fine if you really like CrossFit. But then understand that your level of progression or the amount that you're actually going to be able to do is going to vary, because basically you're older, as you alluded to there, and like the recovery
Yeah.
side of things, which then means you probably have to try and find the right community for you, because
Mm.
the problem is every CrossFit box essentially will have a style of programming. You're probably going to be
Yeah.
quite intense and more like competitive style CrossFit. Then you might have some real like random CrossFit, like if you're going right back to like how CrossFit originally was, like the random word of the day.
Mm.
There is more and more boxes coming up, which might kind of gear a little bit more towards those fundamentals, building towards like strength and like endurance and gymnastics, and kind of separate them all. Which is, and when we had a pre-chat about this, like you spoke about like with speciality classes. But my
Yeah.
my my question to those is like, so why not just go to the specialists themselves and do that?
Yeah.
It's like, because it's like if you're going to a speciality class to say get stronger, why not just go to a more strength focused gym and train
Mm.
there, because you'll probably get more out of it, and because you'll be able to recover better and come to the next class and be following a trajectory which is in line with, say, strength, rather than say maybe doing a 5 rep max deadlift on one day and then actually then doing like a 10 rm strict press like a week later. Do you know what I mean? Like, where's your measures? What are you measuring against to make sure you're getting stronger? What is it that are your KPIs for getting better?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's quite a tough question to answer, just because there's so much variation in how CrossFit is delivered and why
Yeah.
people do CrossFit in the first place. Like, what's your intention when you turn up to a CrossFit gym? What do you want to get out of it? And something we always say and always come back to is like, what specifically are you training for? Like, what do you want out of your training? Um, and that doesn't just mean from a physical results point of view. It also means from an enjoyment point of view, from a community point of view. Like, what role does the fitness side of your life play? And I think CrossFit has huge benefits beyond just the methodology, which is why it's so appealing for so many people, is that you do build, you join a community, you build great friendships, you get a lot of coach attention compared to other classes. So there's all those less tangible benefits than just programming and a workout style. So you've got to trade off the whole picture against the nuts and bolts of the training methodology. But if we keep it specific to the training methodology for now, people go to CrossFit gyms to get generally physically prepared. They want full body, all round fitness, which touches on all the 10 key physical skills. That's the key goal of a CrossFit program. We've talked about in previous episodes whether that's true or not, whether we actually do balance those 10 key physical skills well. And I think the older body struggles most with, like we said, the intensity. So if there is a hard workout at the end of every session, which has come to be expected, and actually this is, for me, is a bit of a deviation from the original CrossFit.com programming, which some days might just be build to a 1 rep max clean and jerk, and that is the session, right? But now you're expected to have the standard structure of like strength or skill at the start and then workout at the end. And that expectation from customers has shaped the way a lot of gyms deliver their programming, because if someone turns up for one class and they don't leave a sweaty mess, they feel like they haven't got what they paid for, which is unfortunate in my eyes, because that means a lot of great programs and great coaches are having to give people what they want rather than what they know they need or is appropriate for them. And I think that might actually cater to older athletes better if coaches had full autonomy to just say, I'm going to write what I think is right for most people rather than what people want from this CrossFit gym.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
go
think
on.
when it comes to like just kind of going back to like the person coming into the gym and they're needing everything scaled or whatever. I guess that's where CrossFit Fundamentals comes in, to make sure that the people coming in are a bit more prepared, so they, not that they don't slow down the class, but they understand what's going to be asked of them in a big group environment. And that helps a lot. That it's just the general little bit of exposure, just kind of like warming them up, essentially ready for the go mentality. But just to kind of carry on from that point you just said there about how to finish a workout, it's funny how I want to feel fit. However, if I want to feel fit, I don't finish every session that I do off with some conditioning. I have a good solid training session, which most of the time will be strength and maybe some bodybuilding style work or some accessory stuff at the end. And then if I want to do some fitness, it will be its own entity. And I will do a fitness-based session, whether that might include some mixed modal stuff, or that it might be some of that, but it will be its own thing. And I think this is where the newer style CrossFit, where it's a little bit more geared towards the competitive style person, can be a little bit better for the older athlete if they know what days are on certain things. Because say newer style CrossFit might be back squatting on a Monday, upper body on a Tuesday, Wednesday aerobic work, Thursday deadlifts, Friday upper body pump. Do you know what I mean? If that was going through the week. So then they'd be able to say, okay, cool. If I had full freedom to pick what days I go, I could then pick maybe the aerobic day midweek, the squats on the start of the week, and maybe the upper body at the end of the week, say as an example, and understand that they're going to miss out quite a big part of their training, because deadlifts they're going to miss, and maybe some vertical pressing is on the Tuesday. So they're actually going to miss a big bit. So it'll be better for their recovery, but the actual full body attention drops. And this is then where I feel CrossFit itself, I love the idea of how it used to be, of being like I say, you build up to a 1 rep max snatch or 1 rep max clean and jerk. Like for me, that would be a really cool session. However, I know, and I would completely sympathize with anyone that say it doesn't feel like enough of a session, because you've done one thing. And you're like, but I've got an hour to train it, and I want to make sure I do a bit more in that. But I think as over time, and you've alluded to as well, that the currency now is sweat. That like if you haven't sweated, it means you wasted your money or wasted your time. Then it's like, no, that's not. That is just. And when people are measuring their session based on calories and saying, I haven't done enough calories in this session, so it means I need to now either one, do more, or this isn't the right thing for me. It's like, what if you're coming in just doing some gymnastic skill work and maybe some, I don't know, some upper body stuff afterwards? It's probably not going to burn that many calories, but you are going to learn a lot about your body. You are going to understand how to move your body through space and time. So you're becoming a better human, because you're learning gymnastics, which is just a lot of body awareness. So there's a caveat for that. But if you're measuring your stuff against your actual output, then that's a terrible class for output, because you don't want output there, because you're trying to learn a skill.
Yeah. I think that's it. It's very difficult to strike the balance of programming to cover everything, give everybody what they want, and also be accessible to everyone at every level. And most CrossFit gyms will encourage people to come every day if possible, so that they get all the benefits of all the aspects of the programming. But as we said earlier, the recovery side of that becomes challenging if you're an older person, if the programming has that high intensity element at the end. And I know the pushback that CrossFit coaches would have is just that, you just take it a bit easier in the workouts. But I think it would be an incredibly small percentage of people that like CrossFit, do CrossFit, and have the discipline to actually do that, where they apply themselves in the strength or skill piece at the beginning, and then they just go through the motions in a intense metcon where everyone else is absolutely ending themselves. I think
that's not community driven, is it? That's then you're going to feel you'll feel even more like the outcast, because you can't push like everyone else can push. So if anything, that will probably be a worse thing to do, because it would alienate you. And then everyone else is gassed on the floor, rolling. Oh, that was so painful. How did you find it? Oh, it was all right. Yeah, I was just out of zone 2, zone 3. So it's like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one thing we haven't talked about yet is the personality fit as well. I think depending on who you are as an individual, it might feel terrible to be the worst in the class. And I think if you're an older individual with not so much training experience, you're going to be constantly holding people up. Say it's a timed piece, and even if you've scaled it, you might be slower than everybody else. And that's nobody likes that, I don't think. So some people don't give a shit. Some people are very happy to, if you're 10 years older than everybody else, it's almost expected. So there's no dramas. And I've worked with people who have been in that situation, and they're great members of the community. But on an individual basis, not everybody likes to be the slowest, the weakest. Even in, like, if you're sharing a bar, if you're always that person that's holding people back or demanding more coach
Yeah.
time, people don't always like that. So that's not necessarily a CrossFit specific problem. That's a class problem,
Yeah.
but something to be aware of as an older athlete.
I do feel though that like certain workouts would then be a lot more conducive and inclusive, because like an AMRAP would be perfect because you're just going as
Yeah.
hard as you can and you'll work to your capacity. It's when you've obviously got for time pieces, or like the CrossFit Open. So obviously that's now it's going on. First one is an AMRAP, but it's cool because most people won't get to, or if they do that something that's outside their skill level, it's not really going to be an AMRAP for them. It's going to be get to the first like milestone what you can't do. So for instance, toes to bar in the first workout, at toes to bar and ring muscle ups. So they could get to the ring muscle ups and be like never done a ring muscle ups, to spend like 5 minutes there, which is not really an AMRAP. That's a workout, and then how many AMRAP ring muscle ups. So that's not necessarily the stimulus. And I think what's funny is when we're talking about you wanting to be what everyone else is doing, if you don't scale the workout to fit your current level and intensity that you to get out the workout, then this is where the problem comes. Because in the open, when people go, right, I just want to be RX and get on the board and try and get my first ring muscle up, and that's really, really good for trying to get your first ring muscle up essentially. But on the flip side to that, you've not got the 14-minute AMRAP intensity that CrossFit wants. CrossFit wants you to work at a certain output continuously for 14 minutes. That's why it is what it is. And as soon as if you then stay in the RX category where you're not quite ready to be there, you essentially your heart rate drops, everything comes down. You're standing around for half the workout. That's not the goal. And then so putting it back to then the older athlete is in like, as long as you're happy to essentially scale back certain things so you can still work at the correct intensity, and just understand that you are going to be doing less, and that's completely fine. But I think that has to be something that you have to just become all right with. I think it's just an awareness thing, right? That you, no matter what, I think this is kind of like going on what you said anyway, but we just have to be a lot more comfortable with being the slowest potentially. Because it's the same with even for newbies, not even older people, just anyone just coming into the gym, just trying to do a workout, they'll be gassed at the start. It's part of doing something.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I think a lot of this stuff isn't necessarily age specific, more just general comments on how you fit into a CrossFit class. And we talked a lot there about the maybe psychological, maybe an overstep, but that side of things. But let's get a little bit more onto the physiological stuff. So one criticism this listener had was that she, I've just halved the population there, found a lot of the a lot of the gyms that she tried in an undisclosed location were too intense and too random, and just couldn't adapt to the programming because she's doing one movement one day and then didn't do it again for a couple of weeks, so her body actually couldn't adapt to it. And this is something we say a lot, that the body adapts through progressive overload, but I think this is especially true for older athletes where the randomness costs more on an older body. Like children's bodies can bounce back from almost anything, and we can see it in how quickly they heal from injuries and how quickly their bodies adapt to new sports. That I think currently, at least for now, older bodies take longer to adapt, to heal, to recover. So the progressive overload and structure of a program is even more important. And again, we come up with another of the challenges of a CrossFit program is that people like variety, they like change, they like randomness, they don't like the in inverted commas boring consistency of other types of training. But unfortunately, that is what the body does like, and it's how the body adapts and gets fitter. So picking a program, CrossFit or otherwise, that has that consistency and repetition of movements and skills will give an older body a better chance of adapting to it, to the movements, to the demands, to the intensities that are being asked of it. And I think that's a huge one for an individual weighing up a program, gym, class, whatever, is does the programming suit your where you're at in your training journey, and what's a realistic recovery demand to impose on your body.
I think first of all, obviously, negating the individual themselves is in like the beautiful thing about the most cities now is that there is so much choice, and to like everywhere offers like free drop-ins most of the time, so you can try things out and see if they're the right fit for you. Because I think as we start to get older, and for me anyway, like I know as I've got older, I know the stress on my body that these, like, let's say like CrossFit movements, so like I'm talking about basically just like mainly, or even like wall balls. Like I did a bunch of wall balls the other week, and I had some serious DOMs because I haven't done them in so long. And it's because again we have this misconception of like, okay, it's just a 9 kilo wall ball, but I was doing say like sets of say like 20. And I did it for like say 20 minutes. So I did like, so it was, and I think it was 21 minutes. So I did like 7 rounds of it. So it's a fair amount. It's like 140 wall balls. So it's a fair amount of squats just in general, forgetting about the wall ball itself. And I wondered why I was in so much discomfort, and taking that out then to then say the randomness or not having the time and letting the body to adapt is, it just means every time you come in, it's going to be like a novel stimulus, and the body's just going to be like, the fuck, how can I deal with this? And so then it just goes into like, fuck, let me use everything I possibly can to make the body complete the task, and then deal with it afterwards, which is then going to be that thing of like getting into that state of like DOMs and just like rhabdo, just like, fuck, my body's fucked, I can't move. So it's a really interesting I'd say time, because especially as well like CrossFit athletes, and this is where I know there's going to be the argument, well, you've got people like Rich Froning now, Dan Bailey, Khalipa and all that lot, but looking at those athletes, even though they are getting older, obviously they still do their foundational stuff. They train every day, so they've got that luxury of training whenever they want, doing their thing. So their body has adapted to that type of stress. And if you're infrequently doing stuff, as we've said to here, the body's going to really struggle no matter the age anyway. So even as you get, so as these say more, these CrossFit athletes are getting older, it'd be interesting to see how much they have to say reduce the volume as their body, because even if they're accustomed to high volume stuff, their body is still a normal human body, right, to some degree. So it will start to break down. Like when I know we touched on like Rich Froning before, how like his knees fucked, everything's fucked in his body. And it's like he's got to give it some time, and all he does is keep hammering it. And I wonder then when he actually starts to ease off a little bit more, like does it then seize up so he can't do anything? So because it then goes the other way as well, just even like coming young into then the sport, because again you said there, we need structure. We need structure to be able to adapt and become better at the sport of CrossFit.
Yeah, of course. I think that's one of the common pitfalls. Just lack of structure, and I think the other thing that goes with that is lack of clarity on the specific outcomes you want from your training. Because CrossFit tries to address all those 10 key physical skills, the danger is that in an attempt to improve at everything, you don't improve at anything in particular. And I think one great thing about getting older is that you tend to know what you want more clearly. So if you have quite clear fitness goals and things you want to be able to do, then ideally you can pursue them more directly. So I think the common goals for older athletes, if they're not competitive, It's basically just to stay strong and stay mobile. And that's mobile, not in the sense of having amazing hip mobility, but in the sense of able to transport yourself around the world and interact
Yeah.
with it. And I think this is more for like much older athletes, but those are great things to focus on, I think. And the question then becomes, is CrossFit the best way to ensure those things and to pursue those things? And I think in my opinion, the average CrossFit program is a very indirect way to achieve those two goals. There's a lot of stuff in there which is unnecessary to maintain your mobility through life. And there's a lot of stuff that, we did a deep dive episode on strength, and defining what strength means to you and what you want to use your strength for is a huge, huge caveat here, because you can be very strong in the gym, but not be strong enough to do the things in your life that you want to be. Say you want to play with your grandkids and you want to pick up, 2, 3, 4, 5-year-olds at awkward angles over to one side. A lot more play would probably be better for you than doing strict barbell strength work. So that's a bit of a longer topic for another time, maybe.
Yeah, but see, it's funny because I'm a huge advocate for like the strength side stuff and like gym based strength. I love it all, but when I try to think about the people as they get older, so like clients and so forth, and including myself, and is in like, what am I still going to be doing when I get older that's still going to keep me strong as a father? Like being able to say, like I'd often refer back to like when I redone the kitchen and the bathrooms, are doing these very manual jobs. It's like when you look at a lot of like very physical job people, like say laborers and like gas engineers, all that stuff, like they're picking shit up, moving shit around. They stay pretty mobile most of their life, like scaffolders, they stay strong as fuck, but they're often the other side of their life, normally the nutrition side of the stuff and like their recovery side of stuff is really poor, because that's not a focus. They just, all they think about is the job and go, and their body normally deteriorates for other reasons rather than being able to pick stuff up and move stuff around and stay mobile, pick up your grandkids and so forth. Whereas then people that focus more on like gym-based fitness lose that, I hate to use the term, but basically like functional fitness of being able to actually do these day-to-day tasks, and like how do you maintain that? So using odd objects. So this is kind of like a case in a way for like strongman, but like having things like sandbags, like D-balls, like picking like certain like CrossFit movements as well, like being able to pick stuff up, put it on your shoulder. Like this is where I think as an older athlete, I think functional fitness kind of comes in at probably a better level, because it's more broad and it includes a lot more of the grunt work, shall we say, and like basic level fitness, rather than necessarily all the high end fitness and like the high skill fitness. And this is like, even like at the where I'm currently working at Marchon, there's like, we have a gymnastics day on the Thursday where we work on say toes to bar and pull-ups, but that is then scaled to wherever someone be, mainly so they're hanging from a bar. It could be just be knee raises, and they are trying to do some kipping, so getting their body awareness of trying to perform a kip. But beyond that, everything else is a lot more just like your basic strength and conditioning across the board. Get fit on ergs, try and go out for a bit of a run, so there's a little bit of running. There's just bits of, but they just sprinkle everything in the week, so that even if you, and then it kind of comes back to the CrossFit thing. If you know what days are certain types of training, it means you can program your week based on then your recovery. But for me, the strongest case for functional fitness in a way is just because you haven't got the high skill stuff to be to let the body then adapt to the lower skill stuff, which is more day-to-day life, because all the life stuff is not hanging from a bar trying to kip your chin above a bar. It's just not. I do joke around with people and say, like, when the zombie apocalypse comes, you want to pull yourself up over a wall and run away. But like at the end of the day, as long as you're faster than the fat person behind you running away, then you're fine. Like, then you're sweet. But you're going to have that basic level of strength, which is where I think you need to be able to try and hang on to a bar, be able to try and do a pull-up, do these like basic fundamental movements. But then also, as you said there about play, it's like we need to structure in play, and it's really hard to structure in play because most people do not see it as progressive or a necessity. And it's not like, I done a workout the other week And that was just like, I thought, what could I do that was just completely different? And it wasn't like for social. I don't even think I posted or anything. It was just for me. And I did like an every 2 minutes. So I did like 4 exercises. One was like carrying, like a barbell carries. So in each hand, I had 60 kilos in each hand, carrying a barbell. So trying to, obviously that was working on grip, wrist strength. I had sandbag on the box and crawl under the box. I was crawling because again, when was the last time you crawled? I had a safety bar, like yoke walking away. It was just having that load on my back, walking down the length of the gym, turning around. And the other one was jumping over a box. So it's like that to me was play. I mean, other people will be like, that's not fun. But it's like, for me, that was doing obscure things in a way that are day to day. Shopping bags, crawling under something, putting something on top of something, carrying something on my shoulders, like all these sort of things. It felt like fun. And its problem is there's not really enough spaces in the UK in particular that have enough space for a full class to do that. And then on the second side to that, if someone did do that, people would fucking love it because it is closer to play.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think if you've listened to the show before, you'll know I'm very big on specificity. And when setting any goals, getting clear on what you want to be able to do makes the question of program design a lot easier. So the things you want to be able to do are crawl around and play with your grandkids. You want to be able to carry heavy suitcases around the airport. You want to be able to pick something heavy up and put it on a shelf. Like, then movements that look like that will enable you to do that more than movements that don't look like that. So if you're an older athlete, getting really clear on what you want to be able to do with your body will dictate what your training should look like. And if you want to compete in CrossFit, then obviously you need to do CrossFit. But if you don't particularly care about competing in CrossFit, you don't need to do all the CrossFit movements. Just think, right, in my day-to-day life, what activities do I want to be able to do as I age? What sports do I want to be able to play as I age? I need to condition my body for those. And so when we say you want to stay strong and mobile, what do you want to stay strong and mobile for? And everyone's got a different answer to that because everyone has a different life. But the clearer you can be about that, the more simple your training can become. There's a viral clip I remember of this old guy with a kettlebell, and he's like straining away in his shed for months. And, at first he can't really pick it up, and then he picks it up, and then eventually he can like swing it around. I think he does maybe a squat with it, and then he eventually starts pressing it overhead. And basically it flashes forward to Christmas, where he's picking up his granddaughter and holding her out so that she can put the star on the tree, and tear comes to your eye.
Yeah, got a little bit of goosebumps there, I did, just hearing that.
Yeah, exactly. But that is, I think, a perfect encapsulation of being very clear on what you want to be able to use your body for, and then going straight after it. Like, that guy didn't need to go to a CrossFit class. Do you know what I mean? Like, he knew exactly what he wanted and went straight after it. So I think that's not just advice for old people, it's for everybody. Getting very clear on what your training is enabling you to do, and then just reverse engineer your training program to fill in the blanks between where you are today and where you want to be. And I think, like I said earlier, older people generally know a bit more what they want through their life experience, so hopefully can be very selective with the training style that they apply and can get closer to it.
I think I'm actually going to flip that, and I think older people know what they don't want rather than know what they want, because it's like they're like, yeah, fuck that, I'm not doing that, I'm not getting my heart rate above 180, like type thing. Whereas rather than saying, because I think so many people are trying to find what they're training for. Like, why is it like bodybuilders know, I want to step on stage, it's very clear and concise. CrossFitters, if they're into CrossFit and I want to perform fully open, they know every year, cool, that's it, or whatever level. If you have a style of training that what that this is what you're focusing on for this period of your life, then great. But I think people that are just like are more general, like say, and even myself at the moment, like obviously I'm now focusing on a weightlifting competition, but I just like to be a strength enthusiast. I like to be strong. So I don't have a particular like direction. which then means my training is very random, which doesn't feel too good to me. But then that's why I like structure, which is why I always look for then something to focus on to direct my strength training towards, because otherwise it's too much play, and then I see that as a problem. Even though it might not necessarily be a problem, because then every week I know I'll get some bodybuilding and I'll do my upper body. I probably won't do much lower body bodybuilding. It'll be more just like then just big, more strong compound lifts, and then big, more full body stuff. And like when I'm doing it, it feels great. But then I'm like, but this isn't serving a purpose, because that's more. But even though I know deep down it is, but like my long term, like what am I working towards is where I think it becomes a bit blurred for a lot of people. And just using like this older athlete, like I understand the like the usage of CrossFit, because you feel like you're part of something, and especially if you're not from the local area, you know, you might not have family, friends and stuff like that. You might have some obviously like gym-based friends that you've kind of accrued, and they're all at the CrossFit gym. So then you're being pulled into that gym environment, and you want to go there to be able to be spending time with your friends rather than necessarily the training. So the two things I'd go back to from that is either one, just hang out with them outside of the gym, and maybe go to the odd session there and be less committed to that, and then have a more of a goal specific program that you follow outside of the gym. And that could be then in the open gym of that gym. So you're doing that. So you're still in that the gym environment, or it might be completely outside of it. So you know when you go to that CrossFit gym that you're there to do a thing, and you're there to hang out with people and have fun with it.
Yeah, spot on. I think that's it. It's another way of just being clear on what you want, right? Is that you want the community, you want to hang out with your friends, you want to do things together. All of those things are achievable without doing a CrossFit class with them. So you can still be part of the CrossFit community. You can still go to open gym. Like there are other ways to work around that, and get the things that you want without having to do the things that you don't want. And yeah, I think that's probably a nice place to leave that one. So in terms of a quick wrap up, the key takeaways are that CrossFit can be done at any age. That's still true. Like if you're dead set on doing CrossFit, you love it, then you can definitely make it work if that's the thing that you want to do. But if it's not, if your training doesn't specifically have to be CrossFit and you're not dead keen on it, you don't need to feel obliged to train in a CrossFit style if your goals have shifted as you've got older. As always, just get very clear on what you're looking to get out of your training, and maybe speak to your coach at the CrossFit gym or another coach to make a plan as to what the best way to tick those boxes for you are, because everybody has different goals and priorities. So if you can be clear on them training wise and otherwise, then I think you can definitely pursue your dreams in a more direct fashion.
What's play for you, mate?
For me, sports. Yeah, racket sports. Love it.
Yeah.
I think that's, I was playing paddle tennis this morning, and I think ball sports have a way of making you very present, because you have to focus so hard when your reactions are challenged. And especially if you're playing doubles, there's 3 other people there, and there's a lot of laughs. There's a lot of like, whenever there's a crazy rally where it's running around all the walls and stuff, I think it's just fun. So I see that as play, and it obviously gets you moving around and doing lots of random movements. So that'll be my go-to for sure.
Yeah. So it's just interesting, as in like, I think as you kind of touched on earlier, as in it is very individual on what you find as fun and what you want from your training. And like the fact that your play is playing like say tennis or a racket sport, and mine is just moving heavy objects around the room for 40 minutes. It's like they're two complete opposite ends of the spectrum, but they're both our versions of play. And I think it can be so easy, especially as you get older, and especially if you've been in something for a long time, that it's like to not detract yourself away from it, but to kind of detach from CrossFit. Essentially, it's where I still kind of struggle. Is in like, even though I've moved away from say CrossFit purely, I still do enjoy a lot of the CrossFit like fundamentals of like, I do enjoy like team workouts because again, it's that being part of something. I enjoy, and when it comes to team workouts, I don't mind getting my heart rate really high because you're part of a team. You're all suffering together. And like I enjoy like the community side of things, of just seeing the same people, week in and week out. But that's what you get as a coach. You get to see those like the regulars and stuff. It's fun, and it just makes it all like play because you are going to there. But I think it can be very easy to get then caught up in other people's like version of what they think is essential, and they might be younger. And then, so they've got more robust bodies. And that's even like my thing. It's like with the open, I'm like, I'm going to do the workouts, I'm going to be fine. But deep down, I know my body is not going to be grateful for me at all getting involved in them. But I want to do it because I want to be part of the community. It's not a thing of missing out per se. It's just, I enjoy it. I enjoy that competitive side of things. And it's like, that is a form of play. So
for sure. And the cost is worth the benefit. I think that's the other thing that needs to be said, is sometimes doing something that isn't necessarily great for you in one dimension is great for you in another dimension. So, you might wreck your body doing a CrossFit workout, but you're going to have loads of fun and it's a really bonding experience with your friends and whoever else. So it's never just unidimensional, just good or bad. There's a variety of factors to consider, but once you've considered them, just make a decision. And I don't think it's something you can go too far wrong in. No. We've probably gone super deep on this topic when the reality is it's not life or death, whether you do CrossFit or you don't. It's not the end of the world. But hopefully for people where this is playing on their mind, there's a few interesting tidbits that can help them decide.
It's just I really wanted to kind of like understand the thing of play for people, because I just think we put so many like milestones on progress that things have to be made. And then, like I even said myself, as soon as you have just play of what you want to do, if it isn't going towards something in particular, it can feel unnecessary. Even though you're enjoying it and you're like, I'm moving the needle forward, but what needle is moving forward? And if it's just, I'm doing it because I'm enjoying this, it's like, then that should be enough of a measure. And it's really hard in today's with, heart rate monitors, like fucking apps to track this, that. Everything's trackable and measurable. That then as soon as you're doing something like fun and happiness, that's not measurable. Like it shouldn't be measurable. When you're having fun, you're not looking at the time saying, I've got 2 minutes left of fun. Or it's like, I've only got 2 minutes left. Oh no, I've got to have as much fun as I can, like a kid. And it's really funny because then when I watch Chloe like running around like a trampoline park and stuff like that, having fun, we're telling her the amount of time she has left. So when we say we've got to go because the end of the session, that she's not like, I don't want to go. But at the same time, it's just, there's no questions. It's just, and when she's done, she's done. She said, cool, I'm ready to go now. Like, and that's her like version of fun, and it's been really interesting watching her to see, like, remind you of what fun is, because we get so measured as we get older, and I think sometimes you just got to say fuck it, just have some fun. So
I completely agree. I think everything feels like it has to be productive nowadays. Like if you're relatively driven or results oriented, then it's another thing I think is a big part of the internet, is whatever you are, you become more of because you seek that content out. So if you're into fitness, you're generally into self-improvement. So you consume a lot of self-improvement content, and it's all about maximizing every opportunity to better yourself.
Yeah.
And what it's not about is just kicking back, having a laugh and having fun, because that feels unproductive. And my stance on it is basically everyone just needs to pick a balance. Like, what's your balance between Elon Musk, like 100% productive, versus someone we don't know about who's just having the time of their life every day?
Yeah, not putting anything on social media, doing their thing,
exactly.
having fun.
Yeah, and everyone's got a different balance that they like to strike. But don't get too swept up in what other people are worried about.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice way to finish the episode. So thank you very much, as always, for tuning in. It's been a fun one. It's been really cool to just have a little chat there as well. And if you have enjoyed today's episode, or you have a question that you'd love us to answer, head over to @lunge.lift on Instagram. Just drop us a message there, ask us a question, and you can share this episode with any of your old pals and anyone thinking about starting the CrossFit as well. But thank you as always, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.